So I did call my brother. He wasn't quite up yet, but I told him, I was like, bro, I got this idea.
Mm-hmm.
He's always like, oh, shoot, she even got
Mm-hmm.
another idea going on. What's going on? So I tell him, I was like, okay, bro, I'm gonna start a whiskey brand. He's like, huh? I also ran it by my mom and dad and my best friend. And those are only people I ran it by. After I ran it by them, I registered the business and started doing
Wow.
the research. And then that's when I told other friends about it because one of my good friends, she's a marketing strategist and researcher. So she helped us do, hell, all of the research almost. I have another friend that works in events and we just, utilizing everybody's skills.
Welcome back to the Liquid Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Monte Burrow. Today, I am excited. I have someone with a great smile, a great hat, and a great product that we're going to be talking to today. Everybody, please give a warm welcome to TK Burtin-Johnson. She will be joining us to have a nice, fun, and lively conversation, to say the least. What's up, TK?
What's up? What's up? Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it. Yes, we're gonna have some fun today.
We're gonna have some fun, and you can see the smiles because we had a couple of rough takes right before this got started. So we're rocking and rolling now.
The bloopers are in.
So I've been in Atlanta for about 4 years now. Mm-hmm. And I would float in around the city at different events and whatnot, and especially when I would show up in alcohol-related events. And I always see this lady with a red hat. I'm like, who is this with this red hat? We would do tastings and we'd be at festivals and I see this red hat and I'd see the smile, I see the red hat, didn't know who she was, but everybody seemed to gravitate towards it. And then when we finally met, it was like we knew each other forever, just because real recognizes real, but beyond that, she has a very warm personality. So TK, first and foremost, tell us about the hat. Just tell us about that. And we're going to get into the brand and whatnot. So you don't got to give us the full version, but tell us about the hat a little bit.
Yeah. So the fedora was just a simple idea that I had when we first launched, because it's Red Hazel, right? So I was like, I need me a hat or something. But legit, I got the hat because I didn't have my hair done. And I was like, I'm not going to do a tasting without my hair done. So I ordered a hat off of Amazon initially. And that hat was worn for, I think, our first 6 tastings or something. And it just became a staple. It just became something that was associated with the Red Hazel brand. And I was like, oh, we're going to keep this. This is a signature. You see the red hat, you see Red Hazel. So we kept it. And now I'm just like, I want to collect fedoras now and get different colors, but it always has to have some type of red in it. So like this one is black and red. And I have like a little, the rose over here has a little belt around it. So this is like my more casual fedora. And then I have one that's more like dressy upstairs. Yeah.
Very dope. Very dope. So we'll come back to that and explore that in a little bit more detail. Would love to start from the very beginning. So my understanding is you are a Midwest girl that grew up in Florida. Give us a little bit of the story. Give us a little bit of the background story.
Yes, I was born in Kansas City, Missouri. Divorced parents. So that's, that right there is like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? But my mom's from Florida. My dad's from Missouri. I ended up in Tallahassee with my mom and was raised there. We moved to Orlando for a little bit. So I also went to middle school and high school in Orlando. And then we moved back to Tallahassee for like the end of my high school career. Like, I was like, okay, this is great, but I'm not staying in Tallahassee. So I moved back to Orlando and went to UCF for college. So just did a little toggling back and forth between Kansas City, Tallahassee, and Orlando for a little bit. But yeah, I always say I'm from the Midwest by way of the South.
So having that blend
Mm-hmm.
of Southern Midwest. What was that like? Is there a charm associated? Because I know that. So a little bit about myself, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I actually lived in Columbia, Missouri for several years, out of undergrad. And then my very first stint, even in the alcohol business, but regardless of that, my very first stint in the alcohol business was an internship at Anheuser-Busch. So I lived in St. Louis, right? So I know a little bit about that area, and I know St. Louis and Kansas City are different, but same vicinity for somebody from an East Coast kid like myself, right? Yeah. Then I also spent a lot of time in Florida. I know it's very different. So tell me what it was like growing up and kind of being in and around both environments.
Yeah, it is very different, but it's similar in a lot of ways. So a lot of people think of Kansas City, they're like, there are Black people in Kansas City. Actually, Kansas City is one of the most dangerous cities to live in. But where we lived, it was really like mixed, and my dad and stepmom kind of kept us in this more upscale environment to where we didn't have to witness a lot of things that they may have as they were growing up. Whereas Florida was very different. I mean, we lived in the projects. I was brought up in Basin Street, which is not too far from Florida State. But throughout Tallahassee, unless you're in like Killarn, which is a suburb area, you really kind of don't have a choice but to see kind of the rough parts and the rough situations happening in Tallahassee. So my upbringing had that balance in my mind, because even living with my mom in Tallahassee, like she tried to shelter me from things that she experienced growing up too, but we still, again, didn't have the option but to see certain things or experience certain things. And it really molded me into who I am today, because I mean, I like to think I have a nice personality. I'm a nice person. I care for people, but I also have a side of don't mess with me. Don't get on my bad side. It's not pretty. It's not cute. I can get really serious really quick, and I don't want people to see that side, but it can happen, you know? So it was really a balance growing up in the two different environments, because you would think they're polar opposites, but in reality, they were really kind of similar. So, and I mean, my parents, they did a great job at trying to keep us out of the, what's the language, my mommy, the riffraff. The riffraff. They did a great job at keeping us out of that as much as possible, because they knew the toll it took on them growing up. So they didn't want us to experience that. And I'm kind of going through that with my husband too. You know, it's like when we start having kids, I don't want our kids to have the same experiences we had growing up. I want them to have different experiences, but do know they're going to know how to defend themselves. They're going to know how to be themselves authentically, whether that's, you know, a karate kid or a chemist.
Right. Duality.
Yeah.
So what TK is saying is, don't let that smile fool you, because you may not know what's underneath that fedora, right?
That part.
So you said UCF, right? You ended up going to UCF.
Yeah.
What did you major in?
So my undergrad, I majored in hospitality management. So I went to the College of Rosen College of Hospitality at UCF. And then I got my MBA from Webster University. And then I have my MS in marketing from Webster University as well.
Why hospitality? Just out of curiosity, why hospitality?
You know, I've always loved hospitality. Like I was all in this, you know, I want to own my own hotel one day, and, you know, just really love the people aspect, and anything that didn't necessarily involve too much math, because I'm not huge on math unless it's about counting money. Like that's the math that I like to do. And that's what hospitality was about. It's about, you know, the money, when in reality everything is, but I don't have to do any crazy formulas. So that was a huge piece. But as I got into the program, I realized there's so many aspects of hospitality, and it just grew into a passion and a love for not just hotel management, but restaurant management. Heck, club management. So I kind of started veering into more of the club aspect of it when I was in school.
Talk to me about that. Were you promoting events? Were you curating? Like what was that? What was that like? And like, just give me a little rundown. Were you doing it on your own?
No, I definitely wasn't doing it on my own. I actually started working for a promotion company. I want to say the end of my freshman year. And I started by doing, flyer promotions. We out on the street teamwork. It was really
Street
cool.
teams.
And that, these kids, they don't know these days about street teams. They will never know street teamwork, man. It's different. But then as I worked with them a little bit, I started working the door. And that became a piece of management that I really liked, because so many people feel entitled. And I just I don't like entitlement. I don't. So it was a twofold for me getting into working the door, being able to tell those people that feel they're entitled, like, hey, you got to stand in line like the rest of these people, or you got to pay the money. Like, it's either or. Running the list was really nice. It was just like that aspect, especially as a college student, like that was cool. Yeah. And then I got into doing VIP and bottle sales. So that was another aspect where I was like, man, this is dope. Like, people, one, are actually like spending money on tables. Like, what? That's kind of crazy. But the experience that myself and the team got a chance to curate for them as a VIP and getting a table, like that piece was huge, because I love for people to have a good time. And if your good time means getting 6 bottles, all right, let me make sure you get the best bottles that you can for your money. Let's get your bang for your buck. Then I started at the club that I was working with, along with the promotion company, started designing like floor plans for them for their VIP. So that helped kind of get them organized and be able to manage the VIPs coming in a little bit better, because that's more of an exclusive kind of situation. So they have to be treated differently when they come in. So I got a chance to do that as well. And I do believe to this day, some of the clubs still use that VIP floor plan and process that I created for them back in that time.
That's super interesting, because I'm thinking back to my days mixing and mingling. We'll call it that. Do you think it was easier or about the same as far as being a female in that space and dealing with customers and deal? I mean, it's basically it's sales, it's customer relationship management, CRM. It's a little bit of all of that. Do you think it was an advantage being a woman in that space? Do you think it was harder? Do you think it was about the same? Just out of curiosity.
I actually think it was tougher being a female, simply because a lot of people, there are two things that are happening as a female that's working VIP. You're either constantly getting hit on, or you're getting disrespected. And there's those very few times where, that respect comes in just automatically. So it's really, it was definitely a tough thing to balance. But once I got to know people and they got to know me, it's like, oh man, all right, TK's about that. She's about that life, in regards to, she ain't trying to holler at nobody. She's not trying to, be that girl that's out there. She's trying to do her job, curate a good time for everybody go home safe. Like, that's where, when people started to know me, they started to respect me. So I kind of like earned that respect, because I wasn't one of your stereotypical girls in the club. It was like, I'm about my business. You're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have a good time now. Like, that's what we're here to do. But at the same time, you're gonna respect me, you're gonna respect my girls, you're gonna respect the club. And if you don't, I have a whole security team that's gonna take you to your next destination.
I'm saying that theme again. Don't let the smile fool you. I'm saying, and I'm gonna keep coming back to it when I say it. I see that thing coming through. She about that business, but she about that life. Don't play. So you graduate UCF.
Mm-hmm.
Is the thought that this would be kind of the career path? Were you looking back, trying to get back into that hotel space that you had talked about? What was in your mind when you graduated and you started to think about career?
Yeah, so actually when I graduated, I was working full time for Wyndham corporate office, doing contracts for their timeshare. So I was already full time into the hospitality management, but just on a different end, because hotels, it's not a whole lot of money in the hotels unless you're in upper management or you own the hotel essentially. Mm-hmm. So timeshare and contracts was really where it was for me. And I did that for about eight years or so. But on top of that, I was modeling as well. I was doing brand ambassador work. I was doing specialist work, trade shows, tastings for some top brands. Like I kind of had my hand in different pots in hospitality, which was great. And then I realized, I'm doing way more modeling in Atlanta than I am in Florida now. So why don't I go ahead and make that move to Atlanta that I've been wanting to make for a while? So in 2016, I told my supervisor, I was like, hey, or my manager, because I was supervisor at the time, told my manager, I was like, hey, so I'm moving to Atlanta. This is going to be my last day. So we need to either figure out who is going to transition into this supervisory position, because I was completely ready to quit my job. Like it was crazy. I was ready to quit my job. But my manager ended up saying, well, you can't have your supervisor role remote because you got a team of 23. However, we have a case specialist role available, which was a role that I was in previously. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a remote. I could do that remote. She was like, yeah. I was like, so what's their salary though? Is it the same salary? So we were able to negotiate that in 2016. I ended up moving to Atlanta. And when I moved up here, the modeling scene started to get a little different and I wasn't really comfortable in it anymore. And being so body conscious as a Black woman in high fashion, like they started reverting back to the 70s, like, oh, you 5'9", you need to be 130 pounds. I'm like, yeah, no, that's never going to happen. We're not going there. So I kind of had to take a turn and see, okay, well, I'm passionate about modeling. I'm passionate about hospitality. What else am I passionate about that I can really just pull it all together in one bubble and just operate? And I started thinking about liquor and I'm like, man, I like liquor. I like to drink it, but I also like the way it's made, the process it goes through, how it makes people feel when they sip responsibly. And I'm like, wait, okay, that might be something. As I started going out in Atlanta, I realized there's a market for women whiskey and cigars. I was like, oh, this is it. So I did a little research and I was like, okay, I'm going to start a whiskey brand. Let me see where's the opportunity in the market. Because I also thought back to when I was working in the clubs and what people were drinking and what they were ordering for bottle service and everything. So that was already a piece of my research. So when I came up with this idea, I was like, oh, I already got some. Let me do the rest of this and, just do the legwork, see what will work. And here we are.
Did you bounce it off of anybody, any friends, any family, or did you just be like, you know what, I'm doing it, let's rock?
So I did call my brother. He lives in St. Louis. So I called him. It was probably 7:00 his time. Oops, I know it's early. Hey, bro, how you doing? You up?
Oh, 7 a.m.
Yeah, it was 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And he wasn't quite up yet. But I told him, I was like, bro, I got this idea. Anytime I call my brother or I text him and I'm like, so hear me out. He's always like, oh, shoot, she even got another idea going on. What's going on? So I tell him, I was like, okay, bro, I'm gonna start a whiskey brand. He's like, huh? Mind you, he's still halfway asleep. He's like, call me back later in the day when I'm awake and we can talk about it because I don't know if you're playing or if you're serious. So I gave it till about noon his time, and I called him back. I was like, bro, I'm serious. I'm starting a whiskey brand. He had a few questions, and initially he was going to be a silent partner, but I ended up bringing him in. I also ran it by my mom and dad and my best friend. And those are only people I ran it by. After I ran it by them, I registered the business and started doing the research. And then that's when I told other friends about it, because a lot of my friends have skills in different areas. So I pulled them all in when we started doing the research, because one of my good friends, she's a marketing strategist and researcher. So she helped us do, all of the research almost. I have another friend that works in events, and we just, utilizing everybody's skills. But that happened after I registered the business, and everybody was very supportive. And they even got me a cake for my birthday. Like this, I think I came up with the idea in 2018. I think in 2019, they bought me a birthday cake with Red Hazel on it. And they in their mind, they were like, oh, this is what the bottle is probably going to look like. So they got the cake in the layout of what they thought the bottle was going to look like based on our conversations. So yeah, I got some supportive friends. They're kind of dope.
So what was this a side hustle? Were you still working a full-time gig? Are you still working a full-time gig?
Yeah, still working full-time right now. We both still work full-time. Our full-time help fuel the business right now, but the goal is to go full-time in the next few years.
So how in the world did you learn where to even start? I know the hospitality connection, being around people buying drinks, but how did you even go process all right, I need a label, I need a bottle, I need some juice. How did you even go about doing that, finding that?
That's a great question, because now that I think about it, I'm like, man, how did that happen? In our research process, I started researching distilleries that would do private labels or white labels, essentially, too. Because if they had something that they're already creating, I was like, oh, well, I could probably just pull what they have and use that for, just a little tease and see how it works. So that part of the research was really tough on that, because I really wanted to have a partner that was in the South, in Georgia or Florida, somewhere easy that I can drive to and, get footage and stuff like that. But after we found the distiller to work with, I was like, man, we do need a bottle. We need a label. We need this. Oh my gosh, what about the cork? And then we go into the design aspect, and I'm like, oh, this is a lot. This is a lot. I started going to liquor stores a lot more, or package stores, as we call them in Atlanta, package stores. I started going to them a lot more and just looking at labels, looking at bottles, just kind of seeing, what's out there, what's what. And the first bottle that we were going to use was actually, I think I have it.
Show if you got it. Show that bottle. Show the bottle.
I do have it. Yeah. So this was, oh, hold on, I have my blur on. Okay. I forgot I had this blur on.
That's all right.
So this was the first bottle that I wanted to use, but it was, one, too expensive. And two, I was like, well, how are we going to do that label? That label is going to be interesting. So we chose a different bottle, which is, I have it somewhere down here, but it's a taller version of our current bottle that we chose. So I was like, okay, cool. We got the bottle. And for the label, we hadn't even started thinking about the label, really. We were like, oh, we need a logo so we can just claim all of our social sites and our website and get that built. And we ended up contracting one of my brother's friends from college. She's a graphic designer. And we just told her, hey, we need something simple just for the time being. And this is what we have in our mind. And she ended up creating what's our current label right now. But it wasn't supposed to be a label. It was only supposed to be a logo.
Right.
Yeah. Because so I came up with the idea in 2018, 2020 COVID hit. We both got furloughed in March of 2020, which allowed us, because we've been doing this research and doing all this, for a year and a half at this point. COVID gave us that little kick, like, hey, you're not working full time anymore. You can actually do 8 hours a day on your own business instead of 2 or 3. And that's what we did. When we got furloughed, I was like, all right, so what we gonna do with the label? Told my brother, hey, let's go with what we have. We got a logo. We can put that on the label. We need to get liquid to lips and we can rebrand later. And that's exactly what we did.
Where did the hustle come from? Like where did this entrepreneurial spirit, this I'm going out and I'm going to go get it come from? Was that your mom, your dad, like somebody else? Where did this come from?
It's a little bit of both, my mom and my dad. So my dad's owned his business for 37 years, I believe. He has a janitorial company in Kansas City that he's had. So I've seen him in his hustle. And although the late nights and early mornings, I'm like, he's crazy. But I did that same thing in college, working at the club, going to school, and working full time. Like I did that. So it just was kind of instilled in me. And then living with my mom, being raised by a single mom, there's a different type of hustle and mentality that comes with being raised by a single mom that people don't really see or understand, because it's just us. And we're 2 women, right? Well, a woman and a girl at the time, but we're 2 women. Like we have to look out for ourselves differently. We have to move differently. We have to make sure we're protected, but we also have to make sure that, the money's coming, mom has her job, but if mom can't do it, then I got to figure something out. So, and we've had some challenges. So all of my experiences between my mom and my dad, and being raised by my mom as a single parent, all of those experiences have made me that hustler. It's that I gotta, if I'm gonna get it, I gotta grind. And I need to grind now while I'm young, because at 50, I don't want to be grinding. I want to be sitting pretty. I want to wake up one morning and say, hey, babe, you want to go to the beach? All right, let's go to the Virgin Islands then. Not to Florida. We're going to the Virgin Islands. Like, that's what I want to be able to do, to be able to live life freely, because I've seen our family struggle, right? And I don't want to have that struggle. So that hustle is to avoid that extra struggle. Yeah. And it just sits with me. And I see how hard they work. And all 3 of my parents, my stepmom, my dad, and mom, I see how hard they work. I see the challenges that they went through. We have very candid conversations. I am that child that, hey, we need to talk. We need to talk because I'm experiencing this and I don't know why. And them being candid also helps fill that energy that I have, because I don't know a lot of people that can have candid conversations with their parents like I do. And it hasn't always been that way. And I'm really glad that it is now, because anytime I speak to them about something that I'm thinking about or a challenge or something, they're honest. They're honest with me, and I can be honest with them. And shoot, sometimes I just call my dad to vent, because he's a business owner, and he's like, look, it ain't easy. Yeah. It ain't easy.
Yeah, you need that. Like, the beverage industry can be hard. The alcohol industry within the beverage industry can be extremely hard.
Yeah.
Spirits can be acts of, I can't even think of the word, can be ridiculously hard.
Yes.
Was it instant success when you got in? I mean, or was it like, what were some of the trials and tribulations that you encountered? I'm assuming you had to get funding. You had to think about how do you get into accounts? How do you find distribution? Was it instant success? And maybe you had it different than we did. Was it instant success when you got in?
Absolutely not. It's still challenging. But when we first launched, we launched during COVID. We launched October 2020, where a lot of distributors and retailers aren't picking up new brands because COVID's happening. although people are coming in the stores buying liquor, they're not buying new products. So when we launched only online. So nobody's ever tasted it. They've only seen it. So that the first few months we did sell out, which was fantastic. And that was just from like people that wanted to support. They've heard us talk about it. They've seen the social media. And when they did taste it, they ordered more, which was great. It took us about two months to get distribution in Georgia, which I was excited about, because when I went to our distributor, I had already reached out to them once. And then I'm very persistent. I reached out to them a second time and they called us back. We had a meeting, and as I was driving home, I was maybe 2 minutes from the office. They called me back and they're like, hey, like, hey, you left something at the office. I was like, oh, dang, okay. I'm looking, I'm like, what did I leave? I got my purse. I got the bottles. Okay, let me go back. And when I went back, I was on the phone with my brother at the time, and I'm like, hey, bro, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna put you on mute while I get this stuff out of here. They come out there like, hey, how would you feel about telling your brother you guys have distribution in Georgia? I said, hey, bro. And that was great. Getting our first few accounts it wasn't a challenge for those first few accounts, because we have some really bomb reps that we started out with. So they got our first, I think, 12 accounts or so. And then I was actually, since I wasn't working, I was like, okay, I'm going out here. I was out 6-7 hours a day, visiting accounts, doing pitches, seeing, who's interested. So that was a challenge, because a lot of accounts aren't, well, back then weren't truly open to new products like that, especially a spiced whiskey, because other flavored products and cinnamon flavored products have damaged the mindset of some customers, so they only keep 1 or 2 on the bar. Or
so she won't say it, I will say it. Fireball has a love-hate relationship with a lot of people. People typically either love or hate it. It's not a lot in the middle. Now, the ones that love it to death, because they move volume. But the ones that hate it. So, and I'm sorry to cut you off there, but
no, you're good. You're
good. So without you saying it, I said it. How did you even go about handling or positioning your brand? And matter of fact, maybe even start to talk a little bit about your brand a bit, and then how did you go about positioning your brand against some of those other brands that are out there? I'll leave it as that.
I'm glad you said it. My PR rep has led me very amazingly in
great job.
But the positioning with our brand, so it's a spiced whiskey. Initially, it wasn't going to be a spiced whiskey. It was going to be straight single barrel. But when we looked at the market research, nobody was doing any additional like clean flavored whiskeys. And I don't even know if like Den of Thieves was out at that time. So if so, they weren't on the research. We got the different systems and reporting. But for smaller brands like us, we're not included in that reporting yet, because we have like 0.000.25 shares in the industry. But our brand is a corn and rye blended whiskey with cinnamon and allspice, and we made it 70 proof. Most flavored whiskeys are under 70 proof, which also doesn't give you that whiskey. Like, I wanted to make sure you tasted the whiskey. But here's the fun part. I'm the whiskey bourbon drinker. My brother wasn't. Like, he likes his Long Islands, but he would drink like vodka or tequilas. And we talked very often about, okay, what do we want the flavor profile to be? And we met in the middle, something that whiskey drinkers can drink and it's not super sweet. It's not, it's not something that they say, oh no, I'm never going to drink that. And then something that non-whiskey drinkers can drink and they not be afraid of like, oh, it's going to burn. Oh, it tastes too whiskey-ish. Somebody has actually said that to me and I thought it was hilarious.
Too whiskey-ish.
Too whiskey-ish. So essentially we wanted to make sure that we have a well-rounded product, but that well-rounded product also relates to us. When you think about me, for example, I'm bold, I'm elegant. So we have a product that's elegantly bold. When you sip it, you can sip it and twerk, or you can sip it and have a business meeting. It just depends on...
Or all three.
Or all three. We can go from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. We can...
Yeah. Love it.
So we wanted to create something that's well-rounded for everyone to be able to enjoy.
So this is a perfect place to stop, and we go down this little path on the Liquid Entrepreneur podcast that sometimes it's a bit of a curveball, but it's about showcasing us. This is the segment I like to call Who Are Your Top 5? So without further ado, Ms. TK, who are your top 5?
My top 5.
If there's only one thing that anybody's talking about when they say top 5.
Oh.
We're talking hip hop. We're talking your favorite 5 artists.
Okay. So top 5 artists. I mean, number 1, Nelly. I'm a huge Nelly fan. I don't care what's happening in life.
Midwest.
I love me some Nelly. Pop.
Hold up. Going back to Ashanti, that's a good thing or bad thing?
If she makes him happy, I mean, it's whatever.
All right, I'm gonna leave that one alone.
If that's what his happiness is, it's whatever.
That's hilarious.
Let's see. I'm just gonna do my top 5 artists in general because there's some artists out right now that I absolutely love.
That'll work.
So Nelly, Tupac, Coco Jones. Absolutely love me some Coco. That girl.
Where's she from? Memphis, Nashville, I think. I think she's from Tennessee, right?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not even sure. Keisha Cole and Kelly Rowland.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not a bad list.
Yeah. Those would be my top 5 because I rotate them on a regular.
That's not a bad list. It's not a bad list. All right. I know you're like, what in the world does that have to do with Red Hazel? Look,
no,
we're talking about you.
All good. I did find our old bottle too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Turn it a bit. It's a bit of a glare. Turn it. Oh. Got you.
Oh yeah. All right. Yeah. So,
what's your brother? Oh, go ahead. Now, I'm just about to say, what is your? You had mentioned you had talked a bit about your brother, and I heard you talk about bouncing ideas off of him 7 o'clock in the morning and him kind of fielding things. And he wasn't, you mentioned a few minutes ago about he wasn't a whiskey drinker, Long Island iced teas and whatnot. How did you get him? Because he's a partner with you, right? He's your business partner. How did you get him to step into this space? Number 1, and then number 2, what has that been like working with your brother? And I mean, I know there's probably a lot of good, but like, it can't be that. Maybe it can be easy, but I'm assuming it can't be all roses and daffodils, what?
Rainbows and
yeah.
So first, I'm a very convincing little sister. But when I initially told him about the idea, I mentioned that he wanted to more so be a silent partner. But as we were going through like the marketing strategy and truly understanding like what would feed the market well, and I was like, man, we're a sibling duo. Like, yes, I'm a majority owner, so we are still considered a woman-owned brand. But we're family owned as well. So bringing him in, it wasn't too hard to convince him, honestly, because he loves like a new challenge. So when I, gave him the idea of, hey, bro, it'll be great for our strategy if the story involves both of us. And he's like, okay, well, let me see how it sounds. And he just kind of went with the flow. It's actually pretty easy working with my brother. It actually is. We didn't grow up full time together. So he grew up in Kansas City with my dad, but he understands me more than any of our siblings, honestly. I could talk to my brother about anything and we keep it real with each other, like no feelings hurt, none of that. He's not a softie, so so he tells me
Tells you how it is.
Yeah, I love being around people that tells me the real. Don't tell me what I want to hear, because that's not going to help me in any way, shape, or form. I need to hear the real. And he's one that, tells me the real. But we balance each other out with our skills.
Tell us about a time where he told you something that was real, and it's not necessarily what you wanted to hear, but it was something real that you needed to hear.
No, sister, we can't buy this because the money in the account is...
That's a big one.
Yeah, because I have a lot of ideas, and my ideas cost money.
Yeah.
But if we don't have it, we don't have it. Me, on the other hand, I'd be like, oh, we'll find it somewhere else. That's probably not a good trait to have. But we balance each other out. Most of the things that I'm really good at, he doesn't like doing. So being front facing with people, doing interviews, and, just kind of being out there and being the face, he's like, do I have to take this picture? And on the back end, he does everything that I'm like, I'd rather not. I'd rather pay somebody to do it. Where it's like accounting and, doing anything with the books, handling inventory and logistics. Like, I'd rather pay somebody to do that, honestly, because it takes so much time. Like, if I can give somebody else that time, that's perfect. So we balance each other out with our skills, which has been working very well.
Yeah. And I mean, it's great to hear that things have been working out. What does ultimate success look like for you guys?
Ultimate success looks like, and I'm going to speak over the next 5 years, because 5 years, a lot can happen, as we see what has happened in 3. So over the next 5 years, I want us to have a line of flavored whiskeys. I want to be full-time. And I guess that ultimate success would be what I mentioned earlier. At 50, I want to be able to say, hey, let's get up and go somewhere, do something, and we go and do it, and there's no question about it. So essentially living freely, but still running the business, of course. And also being able to provide jobs, in this industry, because a lot of us as Black people, we don't think about this industry outside of being a customer, honestly. So I really love the fact that there's so many Black-owned brands out here right now, because I think, maybe 10, 15 years ago, what's the oldest Black-owned brand? Maybe 15 years old?
Good question. Yeah,
I think maybe 15 years old. And I'll do that research and correct myself if I'm wrong.
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Yeah, but it's like, to understand that we can not only be a supplier in this industry, but a job provider in this industry, and teach others, how to run a successful brand, or even be on the back end of the brand doing the distilling. Because historically, women have been doing most of the distilling, and I think that's phenomenal. So at the end of the day, I want to be able to provide those jobs too. So I don't know what that looks like yet, but it's gonna happen. Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest obstacle in you hitting that picture of success that you just spoke about?
Capital. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of money to run this business. And that's why we still work full time too, because we're not making that profit yet. And it's gonna come. But I want anyone that watches this to understand, if you want to build a brand, build it for the right reason. It's not a quick turn dollar. There's a lot of dollars that go into it. We're very grateful to be a part of the Pronghorn brand portfolio. So we have gotten capital from Pronghorn, but more capital is always welcome, so we can start creating new products and getting distribution in other states. Right now we're only in Georgia and Florida, which is great, but I kind of want to take over the Southeast over the next year and a half. I mentioned rebranding earlier, so we're currently rebranding. We just
nice.
Actually, we just sent an email out to our newsletter registrants, which is about 500 people.
Yeah.
They got the first look at our new logo.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you'll have to get your brother on some of those marks talking about the change.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Before we get you out of here, we got one more little game we like to do.
Oh.
And this is called Here's One of My Favorites. It just showcases a little bit more insight into the person behind the brand, right?
Okay.
So, and again, there's no right or wrong answer, and it doesn't have to be your absolute favorite, but here's one of my favorites. You ready?
Okay.
All right. Here is one of my favorite brands. And it doesn't have to be in the alcohol space. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite brands.
Steve Madden.
Okay. Here is one of my favorite songs.
Hot in Here.
Why did I not see that coming? Here is one of my favorite movies.
Ooh. Oh man. Little Rascals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I got a lot of favorite movies though.
Yeah. Why Little Rascals?
It's so nostalgic. Like I'll sit and watch Little Rascals even now. It's hilarious. It's one of my movies that I went and watched like every day as a kid. Like it just, I gotta feel.
Here's one of my favorite leaders.
Right now, Fawn Weaver.
Fawn. She's making moves.
Yeah, man. I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is definitely making moves, like fearlessly too, fearlessly. Like unapologetically and fearlessly.
Yes, everything she does is intentional, and she's very inspirational in the way she speaks, but she's real in the way she speaks too. And is that finding that balance is it's a skill. It's a skill. So, oh yeah.
Here's one of my favorite things to do to relax.
So I don't do a lot of relaxing. I'm still working on that.
Why? Why not? Why not?
Time. And I just I don't know. Every time something's on my mind, I'm like, I feel like I have to do it. I have to do it. I have to do it. So I'm always on a go. I'm working on that relaxing thing. But my favorite thing to do to relax is getting massages.
Okay.
Or reading a book.
Yeah, I asked why because it's great to even have these conversations, right? So even though I'm asking you a bunch of questions, the flip side of it is being in this space, I also care. And the last thing I ever want to see is someone on a trajectory like you are hurting themselves for not taking care of themselves in response to thinking they had to do more, right? And it's a extremely hard balance. And I probably don't have the audacity to say that because I'm probably the worst. But sometimes it's easier to see it in others. So even me telling you this is me telling myself the same thing. Yeah. But we have to find the balance. And remember, balance doesn't mean this. Balance means sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like this, but it can't always be like this, and it can't always be like this. Right. So it's finding that balance,
Yeah. Which is, I mean, you're very, very, very correct. It's hard to find that balance, but I have been doing a better job at that. And another thing I like to do for my self-care is going to concerts and like festivals. Nice. So like last weekend when Music Fest was in town.
Mm-hmm.
And I cut off my phones. My husband got us 2-day tickets and we went both days. And then I took off work Monday. That's it.
And see, I was going to go and I was working. That's what I'm saying. I got to practice what I'm preaching. You know what I mean? But
my thing is, if we buy it, I'm more than likely to go.
Yeah.
I'm more than likely to do something if it's purchased already. So like for massages, for example, if I already paid for it, I'm not going to cancel it or reschedule it, because I will easily find a way to say, I could do it the next week, or I could do it the next week, or I could do the next week. Like, yeah, we got to be intentional about making time for ourselves.
Are you a relaxing massager or deep tissue?
Oh, I'm relaxing. I'm going to have me a glass of wine before.
Yeah.
I'm going to get, a nice little relaxing massage. And then I'm going to have me a glass of wine afterwards. Good. And then have some whiskey after that wine.
Love it. What is one of your favorite things about the hospitality industry?
People.
Mm-hmm.
People are very interesting. There are more good people in this world than there are bad. And that is my sole belief. And just meeting individuals with different personalities, different nationalities, cultures, is just, I love it.
What is one of your favorite qualities about your partner, your brother?
He's my big bro. So my brother is like low-key a comedian and he doesn't know it. He's hilarious and he keeps laughing. And I think that's one of the best qualities, because I can be very high strung sometimes. And he helps kind of brings me back down to that balance level that I need to be on when he, tells his jokes or unintentionally tells his jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Last one. What is your favorite quality about yourself?
Why is that the most difficult question? I would say my favorite quality about myself is the way that I think, the ideas that I come up with. Because I'm always, and that's part of my need to relax. My mind is always going, and I'm always thinking of different ideas. And some of those ideas really turn out to be like bomb ideas. And I think that is a great quality about me. But also another quality, I'm good with words. So yeah, those would be my top two.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that was dope. That was really dope. Oh, how did I forget this? Red Hazel. Mm-hmm. Where did the name Red Hazel come from? I don't think we even talked about that. It totally escaped me. It totally escaped me.
No, we didn't talk about it. So when I came up with the idea, I have a notebook and I still have it upstairs of like 30 names. And I was like, okay, we're gonna do a whiskey. Okay, great. The name has to mean something. It has to mean something to us. And when I initially came up with the name Red Hazel, red's my favorite color, hazel's the color of my eyes. And that was just it. And after my brother got pulled in and we started talking a little bit more, I'm like, nah. Red is that passion and that fire within you. Hazel's the calm. When you put it together, you got the perfect blend, like I was mentioning, that elegantly bold blend. And then when you actually like meet me and my brother in person and you see how we operate together, you're like, oh, TK is a red, he's a hazel. So it matches well for that perfect blend. That's
crazy.
Yeah.
Well said. And the perfect blend, no pun intended, right?
No pun intended.
Right. So where can they find Red Hazel? Give us all your socials, yours and Red Hazel socials, and online, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so our website is www.redhazel.net. Make sure you go look at the website right now, because in the next 60 days, it will not look like that. So I'm very excited. Instagram, Red Hazel Official. Facebook, Red Hazel Whiskey. And Twitter, Red Hazel Whiskey. TikTok, Red Hazel Official. My personal IG is Ms. Burtin. That's MZBURTIN. And my brother's personal IG is Mr. Burtin, MRBURTIN.
You got it. You all have it. So go take a look. Go out to the local store, get yourself a couple of cases of Red Hazel. If they don't have it, ask for it and ask for it and ask for it again. Keep talking about it.
Yes,
I love to always say this, so I'm gonna keep saying it. Is, you know, it's great to vote with your likes and your appreciation, but we got to vote with our dollars as well. So go out and support these brands. Small brands will never become big brands without that support. So please go out and support. TK, it's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that I looked up that lady I kept saying with the red hat. And I'm so glad that I didn't get on her wrong side either.
It's hard to get on my wrong side now. You know, you got to do a whole lot to get on that because
we don't want none. We don't want none. But no, it's been a pleasure. And look, whatever that top pinnacle is, I'm looking forward to meeting you up there. So keep that journey going, and let's just keep if I can be of any support, I'm here, and you know, and I mean that sincerely. So until the next time, cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.